It's time for the Hockey Writers Grindline, a weekly show covering everything Detroit Red Wings. Brought to you by our own iconic top line of Wings writers. Sit back and enjoy The Grind.
Welcome to the Hockey Writers Grindline. This week's show is being brought to you by The Morning Skate, a daily newsletter delivered to your inbox Monday to Friday, jam-packed with the best hockey stuff on the planet. It's a daily dose of the latest NHL news, rumors, history, funnies, quizzes, and more. Just a little hockey fun and information brought to you every day of the week from the Hockey Writers. I am your host, Kyle Knopp, and today I'm joined by my line mate, Devin Little. Devin, how are you doing today?
Always good to be here with you, Kyle. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. It's always great to be back on a Friday night with you guys.
Absolutely.
And filling in for Pat, who has been holding vigil bedside for Clayton Keller this week, is Vancouver's Canucks correspondent, the Grindline producer, and overall great guy, Matthew Zator. How are you today, Matthew?
Doing good. I'm in a different location, as you can see from, but I'm ready to go. I have a stable internet connection here, so let's go.
That's all we can ask for, especially since your internet's the one that's holding up this show. So we need it to be a good connection. So we're glad to have you here, though, with us today, Matt. But that will take us right into our first section, one of our oldies and goodies that we love to put on every week for you. Just a little recap of the week with one good, one bad, and I will start us off this week. So my good is going to be the pipeline that the Detroit Red Wings have coming straight from the SHL. That's over in Sweden. The Red Wings had 5 players in the top 10 of scoring, with I believe 3 or 4 of the rookies under 20s were in the top 3 of scoring. So that's really good. You're showing that your young guys are playing really well, and that they're showing a lot of promise. And we saw what Seider did last year as the player of the year in that league and how he's transitioned over. So that's my good for the week, that the future is absolutely bright in Sweden. And then my bad of the week is the present, specifically the goaltending in the last week and our defense. The Red Wings gave up 19 goals in the last 4 games as of taping last week. I believe it might even be 20 now, because the Ottawa Senators are up 2-1 over the Red Wings in the second period. So the bad for me has just been defense and giving up goals this week. So Matt, I'm going to start with you today. What is one good and one bad from the week that was?
Well, I'm going to go with my first. The good is Lucas Raymond and Moritz Seider. I mean, Raymond scored the only goal today so far, and we're going to talk about him next. So, he's just amazing this year, and Seider as well. I mean, these two guys are going to be the pillars of the Red Wings for years to come, and they just keep showing it every night. Raymond's we're going to talk about 50 points in a season already, 51. With his goal. So, I mean, and, what else can you say about these two? I mean, the way that they've kind of rejuvenated the Red Wings, I mean, as much as they've struggled this year with their goals against and all that, they're always the bright spots. You can always look to them and say, this is a big positive of this year and to the future of what they're going to be. And these two guys are so young and so much potential that they still have. And to be a Red Wings fan, to be excited to these two, I mean, yeah, anyone actually just watching the Red Wings should be excited just to watch these guys for the next decade or so. So, I mean, that's my good. Bad, I'm just going to echo that, what you said, Kyle. I mean, amount of goals they've been giving up lately has been insane. Yeah. Double-digit goals against, upwards of 7+ a game. I mean, come on. And they are down 3-1 now against the Senators. So there's 3 goals more against. I mean,
this could be another 11-1 game by the time we're done recording.
Yeah, right.
Their goaltending out there in the universe
on paper, right? On paper, their goaltending isn't that bad. I don't understand what's the big problem. And well, again, we're going to be talking about this as well with their defensive system, what's happened. So that's my bad. It's just how much they've been giving up. I mean, you can't be giving up those types of goals every night. It's just not, you can't win games if you're allowing that many a night, even if you do score 4 or 5, which is the Red Wings have shown they can do. You're not going to win when you're allowing 8. So that's my bad for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. This is no longer the 1980s where teams were winning, shootout games 7-4, 7-5 every night. This is the NHL of today where the goaltenders are a lot more athletic and a lot more, apt to be competitive. And so you're absolutely right. You can't get into these shootout games, especially against these high-powered offenses of the Eastern Conference. So, Devin, we will come to you. I'd like to get your thoughts on one good and one bad from the week that was of the Detroit Red Wings.
Well, my one good just simply is going to be getting a point out of that game against the Rangers following the shellacking they took against the Penguins. It wasn't, of course, we would have loved to have seen, 2 points, but to get a point after that, good fight back and good kind of response game. So you do like to see that. My bad, we don't know the full picture. We don't know all the details on this yet, so I won't say too much. But the departure of Al Sabatka from the organization. He's one of those people that is as synonymous with Hockeytown as Steve Yzerman himself. So, like I said, I won't get too much into it because we just don't know enough about it. But it is very bad news to see that he is no longer with the Red Wings organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that's something we will definitely dive into over the coming weeks as we get more details on the situation. Don't want to do anything to speculate without knowing all the facts of the situation. But the initial reports coming out show that something happened, and that whatever it is, it's not good for the organization. So hopefully, we'll move past that and we'll find out and move on. All right. So moving on. Detroit went 3-8-3 with 9 points, 37 goals for, 66 goals against, a 56.4% penalty kill success rate. And only 30.1 shots per game. That's only 10 shots a period in the month of March. What is the cause for the Red Wings struggles here? I mean, why was March such a struggling month for the Detroit Red Wings? And Devin, I'm going to start with you.
Well, they call it March Madness for a reason, right? I think that the month of March has kind of been just a perfect storm of crap for the Red Wings. We closed out this past week's show with the thought that like the wall had finally showed up. We've been waiting for the Wings to hit the wall. They finally hit it, and they've hit it hard. And beyond that, why have they hit a wall? Well, first and foremost, 9 players in their lineup are playing their first 82 game season. I think that you're seeing a lot of players, realize how much hockey is being played in a NHL season. On top of that, you're seeing, especially now with the departure of Nick Leddy and Troy Stetcher, you've got a defense that is basically Moritz Seider and 5 or 6 guys that are hit and miss on any given night. That left side is, your best defenseman on the left side is maybe Mark Stahl or maybe Jake Wallman. And if either of those guys are the best guys on your left side, there's some work to be done.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, you're not getting goaltending. We talked about Thomas Greiss not doing enough to help Nedeljkovic out and give him the rest he needs to maintain himself. He's got an 8.824 save percentage in the month of March, and Ned, for his part, has a 0.891 save percentage, at least before tonight's game against Ottawa. So neither goalie is really performing even average for this team. You're not, and I think that's kind of a byproduct of the defense that I just talked about. Mm-hmm. But everything's kind of just collapsed all at once, and we're seeing the effects of it in this maddening March month.
Absolutely. And you bring up quite a few great points, but the one I definitely want to highlight again is just look at how young this team is and how many guys are in their first full year of the NHL or coming over and playing AHL games and NHL games and, getting more games than they would expect to get And then the schedule, they're supposed to be that month off. That was really going to help with some of these younger guys. And now all of a sudden they got jam-packed with games and extra loaded. So I think you're absolutely right. We're seeing a little bit of fatigue. We're seeing a little bit of youth kind of catch up to this team. But I think, this is what they need to break through.
And
Matthew,
and just
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, just real quick. Also, I want to say it was after the All-Star break. Their remaining schedule was it was the strongest, or like the weakest, however you want to call it. Like they basically had the toughest schedule remaining after the All-Star break, and we're seeing that.
Yeah, I think they still actually are in the top 5 of toughest schedules remaining, and they're down to their final 15 or 14 now. And I mean, I think you have these two today and is it Sunday against Ottawa? Or it might even be tomorrow, but tomorrow when you're watching. But yeah, today and Sunday against Ottawa. But those are 2 games that they should really take at least 2 points, if not the full 4 from. I mean, they're higher in the standings. On paper they should be winning those types of games, but as we're seeing tonight, down 3-1, they just seem to have really hit that wall. And I think you're absolutely right that fatigue is really catching up to this team. Matthew, I want to get your thoughts on what is the cause for the Detroit Red Wings struggles in March. And as a reminder, Detroit went 3-8-3 with 9 points, 37 goals for, 66 goals against, a 56.4 penalty kill success rate, and only 30.1 shots per game. What do you think is causing their struggles?
Well, they're ugly stats for one. Devin, good shout out.
Punch me in the face every time I read them out loud. Yeah.
And Devin with the alliteration, the maddening March month in March. So I mean it's bad, and that penalty kill percentage is horrible. I mean, you're only killing a little over half of your penalties. I mean, come on. You're not going to win many games with that. You're not going to win many games allowing 66 goals against in a month. And only scoring 37 is not good enough either when you're allowing that many. So, I mean, it's like Devin said, it's a perfect storm of crap. And there's just so much that you can say. I mean, how much can you say any positives of this month? I don't know. You have to really look to try to find a positive. I mean, Raymond and Seider got points, so maybe that's a good one. But
that's it.
There's a lot of bad things. I mean, bad defense, like Devin said, with the inexperience on the blue line now without Stetcher and Leddy. I mean, those 2 guys are veteran leaders. Yes, Stetcher wasn't in the lineup all year for most of the year, so you can't really say he's the reason that. But I mean, Leddy, he was there, and he's a veteran presence and a good defenseman. I mean, so he, those 2 being out, that's a huge loss. And then Nedeljkovic is, he's been left out to dry a lot of the time as well. Just being in the net playing. And so, I mean, it's hard to find anything good about the month, and there's just so much that went bad, and it just can't go on like this I mean, it won't. I mean, there's just so much good that's coming, and the off season, I'm sure Yzerman's going to be looking at upgrades on the blue line, and just the natural progression of the young guys as well. It's going to be good. So it's going to get better. Don't worry, but it's been a bad month.
I do have one good thing to say about the month of March. It's over.
It's over. That's yes.
Well done.
So
well done.
We will just end it at that and move on. So welcome to April, everyone. But speaking of, so this whole show is not just negative. Want to sprinkle in a little positives there, and we've already somewhat touched on this, but Lucas Raymond became the 13th rookie in Wings history, and first since the 1991-92 season, when a little-known Swede by the name of Nicholas Lindstrom reached 50 points in a season. And Seider is only 6 away from 50, which could have changed. I'm not sure if he got an assist tonight, but he's only 6 away. So he's within double digits with 14 games remaining after tonight's game against Ottawa. So what has this duo meant to the Wings this season and to the rebuild moving forward? And Devin, I'm going to start with you. What has this duo meant to the Wings, talking about Raymond and Seider this season, and what does it mean to the rebuild moving forward?
Well, at the very least, it means that we have good things to talk about, right? But no, in all seriousness, I talked about on the blue line how it's basically Mo Seider and 5 or 6 guys that, are hit and miss.
Yeah.
You've got one guy on the blue line that you can more or less count on any given night, and that's huge. That's a pillar of your franchise going forward. Lucas Raymond. Exactly. Lucas Raymond. He's, even when he was going through a scoring slump where he wasn't putting the puck in the net himself, he was still getting assists. He's had a very productive season as a 19-year-old who just turned 20. Again, he's, scoring winger. He's another one of those players that you now can, feel confident about going into the future and saying this guy's going to be part of it. It legitimizes, in my opinion, it legitimizes the rebuild, because if, Seider was Yzerman's first round pick, Raymond was his second. If both of those guys come into the lineup and do not live up to expectations, we're maybe thinking twice about Yzerman's ability to steer the ship here. But no, they both show up and they're both rock stars. So it's like, all right, clearly somebody has an eye for talent here. We're on the right track. And then last but not least, it's just something to make people tune in and make people buy jerseys and, have interest in the Red Wings.
Yep.
The last couple of years haven't been fun. And, I'm sure that the overall sales when it comes to anything that, the Red Wings sell were down because of it. So now you've got these two, at least future superstars. I would say they are already. Yeah. But superstars, they're going to drive ticket sales. They're going to drive jersey sales. They're going to, they're going to put people in the arena. And that is crucial for a team that is still, facing an uphill battle in terms of their the rebuild timeline. So all those things together, this team needed players like this. And it's a great thing that they got 2 of them on one season instead of just 1.
Absolutely. Those are great points. I mean, you bring up a lot of great points, but yeah, they are fun to watch. They're bringing people back and bringing the interest back up in Detroit and around this team, and the future is bright. So, absolutely, they are exciting. Matthew, I'd like to get your takes on Lucas Raymond becoming the 13th rookie in Red Wings history and the first since 1991-92 to record 50 points in a season. And his cohort, Mo Seider, is only 6 away with 14 games remaining. We'll just assume that today it turns out ugly as well. What has this duo meant to the Wings this season and to the rebuild moving forward?
Well, they're, like I said before, they're 2 pillars of this franchise now. And, Raymond, who thought he was going to put 50 points up this season? I don't know how many people did. I mean, at the beginning of the season when he was just fighting to be in training camp, right? So, I mean, yeah, that's right. I mean, Devin probably did, but
he's probably the only one.
But I mean, he did it, and he's got 50 points. He's just one of those guys that's just, exciting to watch, a guy that people are going to want to come to the rink to watch. And he's already one of those. I mean, people are going to buy tickets to watch Lucas Raymond, to watch Moritz Seider. I mean, these guys are 2 of the more exciting players in the league now, and they're only going to get better. I mean, like I said I'm pretty sure I've said this before, but how are they going to be when they're 25, in their, athletic prime, when they're the best athletically? How good are they going to be? I mean, this is amazing how much they already are. What are they going to be then? I mean, it's exciting to look forward. And how much more can you say? I mean, Seider, he didn't get an assist today, I looked, but so he's got, and Raymond didn't get any points either, so except for his goal, but no more. And so, I mean, they're going to get more as the season goes on. I'm sure Seider will hit that 50-point mark, and look forward to the future, because it is bright with these 2 leading the way.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, I thought coming into the season, Raymond might still be a year away, or even, a partial year away. I thought he might be like the Matthew Boldy or Michael Bunting type, where he started the season down and then got brought along partway through the season. But no, he came out of the gate. He was on fire. He stayed on fire. Like you said, Devin, even during his mini slump, he was still creating opportunities and getting those third assist, even though they're not showing up in the score sheets. He's driving the play and he's hovering around the net and he's right there all the time. And so, they're very exciting. And Devin, again, to your point about selling jerseys, I mean, it's been a while since I've been interested in buying a Red Wings jersey. And, I would go out and buy a Seider jersey tomorrow. I was hoping he'd put up 30 points this season. And, I think he's going to be hovering close to 60 by the time the season's done. So. Okay, we're going to take a breath and reset the show. This is The Grind Line, and I am Kyle Knopp here with Devin Little and Matthew Zator, and we're talking Red Wings hockey. Before we get back into it, we wanted to remind you to sign up for the Morning Skate, a daily newsletter delivered to your inbox Monday to Friday, jam-packed with the best hockey stuff on the planet. It really is. I put it together every night. It's a daily dose of the latest NHL news, rumors, history, funnies, quizzes, etc. We have a lot, we had an issue about dogs last week. We talked a little bit about everything. So make sure you sign up. You can find it below in the description. Sign up. It comes to your inbox Monday to Friday at 8 a.m. for free. And that's morningskate.io. All right. We're going to get into some of our comments from our viewers this week. And Paradox Destroyer asks, what do we think of Blashill's defensive schemes and the overall system that the Wings play, his system more specifically, and how does it compare to other teams? Matthew, let's start with you. I think I started with Devin last time. I could be wrong. I have a short-term memory, but let's go with Matthew.
It's not good. I
think that's why I wanted to start with you.
It's not good. You know what? I mean, Blashill's he's had history of being a really good coach with young guys, and won a Calder Cup with the Grand Rapids Griffins, a really good coach down the minors. He deserved the chance to coach in the NHL. I mean, that's, you can't fault the Red Wings for promoting him, to put him in this position. But this year hasn't been good. I mean, defensively, they're probably, Devin, I was reading one of your articles, I believe it was you that wrote this, about this is one of the worst that they've been defensively in a long, long time. And that's not good. I mean, yes, they're a young team. I mean, you can give them that. I mean, they're still trying to learn things, but Blashill's been here for a few seasons now. And it should show some structure already, kind of. And to me, it just doesn't look good from the outside. I'm not watching this team every night. I watch them kind of, periodically. And whenever I do and see stats and advanced stats and all that, just doesn't look good. And it's got to change eventually, because this team has to grow and has to be good structurally. I mean, they are scoring goals, so offensively they're not too bad. But from what I can see, it's just it's not good. So I'll just end with that.
Excellent point. Devin, Paradox Destroyer wants to know, what do you think of Blashill's defensive scheme and the overall system that he has the Wings playing, and how does it compare to other teams?
Well, I don't think it's radically different than anything any other team does. I mean, hockey is a sport where even the most creative plays are, kind of like branching off of other plays that everybody else does. It's not like Blashill has his own system that literally nobody knows what it is. Right. It's very much man-to-man. Sometimes, 2-on-1s, that sort of thing. It's I'd say, very first topic besides one good, one bad, I talked about how their defense is Seider and then 5 or 6 guys. And I wonder, there is a part of me that wonders how much that lack of talent on the blue line contributes to just how poor they are on defense. And I mean, there is something to it. I guarantee you there is. We've talked all about how DeKaiser is not where he should be. Mark Stahl is not, is a shadow of who he was. All these good things. And when you don't have talent, even if you have a great system, it's just not going to work. So Is it? I mean, to Matt's point, I wrote earlier this week that the Red Wings goals against is worse this season than it was in 2019-20 when they had the worst season they've had in ever, possibly. And if you're and you know that team, we all kind of accepted that, like, all right, this team has no talent. It's no wonder this team's bad. This year, don't get me wrong, they're not like they're not a playoff team. They aren't. But they've got they've got some more pieces. They've got some more players that should be capable of helping out. It shouldn't be this bad. If you've watched the show, you know, and for any period of time, you know that I've never been Blashill's harshest critic. But there is something to be said that this team looks this bad defensively this year. Yeah. I think the reason why he still has a job right now, well, I think there's two reasons, but I think the big one is that lack of talent. And I think Yzerman puts that on himself more than he does Blashill. But I do think that there is a long, hard look that needs to be taken at the Red Wings defensive schemes, because as good as they were last year, that wasn't conducive to creating offense. So they still need to figure out that balance to where they're scoring fine this year. But they got to figure out how to do that while still playing good defense. And if Blashill can't figure that out, then it's time to move on. And that will probably, in fact, I guarantee that's going to be a discussion that happens once the season is over.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. I think that they definitely have to at least have a discussion at the end of the season because, like you said, you know, look at this team compared to last year and the 2 years ago when they were that worst team ever. You know, they brought in Raymond, they brought in Seider, they brought in Nedeljkovic. That's skill players at all three positions that you need to have and build off of. You know, they didn't really lose much. They brought in Vrana as well. Yeah, he was hurt most of the season, but that's another offensive weapon, and without losing a whole lot from, you know, their offensive firepower, you know, from the last two seasons. So the fact that they are not scoring or giving up more goals is very concerning in my eyes. I don't, like you said, Devin, I don't think that he's doing anything different in terms of schemes. And I think he's actually a really good offensive specialist coach in terms of, you know, if he was an NHL assistant at the offensive level or in the AHL, where he really gets on his offensive players to play a full 200-foot game and to be responsible in the defensive zone. However, I think also, to your point, Devin, part of that is having only Seider back there and then having a carousel of partners for him to play with. Is they don't get to feed off each other. They don't have that chemistry. They don't have that ability to switch without even communicating because they're comfortable playing with each other. And so I think it's a bit of the Blashill blender versus just not quite having know what to do with that talent in the defensive zone that has kind of come back to hurt him this season. So Paradox, that's my 2 cents for you. Hope you don't mind I threw it in there as well, but thought I would at least give my thoughts on the issue.
I know I was hoping to hear your thoughts because you are a resident coach here.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I don't, you know, every coach has their own little style too. And so, you know, I don't want to say like everything I do is right, because obviously I'm not in the NHL. So, and, you know, and I haven't been Blashill's biggest supporter, especially the last 2 or 3 years. I think he's gone quite stale, especially on the offensive side of the puck. But we're talking about defensive schemes, and I just kind of, thought I would throw my 2 cents in. But I think what it has to do with this, just he gets his players back into the zone, but then I don't think he quite understands how to explain to them what to do when they're already there. All right. Hal 9001 asks, is it time for the Wings to take a long, hard look at Hronek? Filip Hronek, that is. Do we see him as a long-term piece to the Red Wings evolution, or is it time for Detroit to move on from him this summer? Devin, I'm going to start with you on this one. What's going on with Filip Hronek? Is he part of that carousel that should be back there with Mo Seider? Is it time to pack his bags and get him out?
You know, I hesitate to say that it's time to get him out because he's 24. I think he turned 24 this year. Yep. You know, he's not done growing. He's not a finished product. He's one of those guys who this is his first 82 game season. this past game against the Rangers, I had a few notes written down about him, and none of them were good. But then there are other games earlier in this season where I had a few really good notes about him. He like epitomizes the problem with this blue line right now, is there's too many guys who are, fantastic one night and then completely no shows another night. And I think that he's somebody that you don't move on from just to move on from. He's still young. I don't like the idea of moving on from a young guy just to move on from them, because you don't know what they're going to be in a couple of years. Mm-hmm. But I also think that he's somebody that if the right opportunity comes along, I think he could be a really interesting trade piece for a team that could use some youth and some offense on their blue line. Because the one thing about Hronek that he is really good at, it's offense. You can pretty much put him down in a marker that he's going to get half a point a game for the season. He's on pace for like 30 or 40 points this season, just like he has been the last few seasons. So he produces offense, and that's valuable. It really is. But when it comes to playing in his own zone, he's not somebody that you want to be playing in crucial situations. So I don't want to say yes, it's time to move on from him, but I'm not ready to say this guy's going to be here for the next 10 years, because he hasn't shown up in the way that Moritz Seider has.
Excellent points. And just to reiterate his stats right now, he heading into Friday night's game against Ottawa, he has played in 63 games, which is only the second most in his career. He played in 65 his second season in the league. He has 5 goals, 27 assists for 32 points, which is a career high for him. His next best was in that same season with 65 games played. He had 31 points. He had 9 goals that season, which was a career high for him there. So he's putting up numbers where we expect him to be. Like you said, he's at about half a point per game. I have had some issues with him in terms of his defensive zone play. I think he's been very sloppy this year, and he hasn't quite been the confident puck mover that we saw last year, especially 2 years ago and 3 years ago when he first joined the Red Wings. And then, we haven't had any empty nets for him to shoot at. So
I was going to say,
I don't know what we can do for him. We're not in the position to give him goal opportunities because they're not pulling goalies against us. So Matthew, I'm going to come to you. What are your thoughts on Filip Hronek, and is it time to move on?
Well, like Devin said, he's still a young guy, and he's shown pretty well through his career. I mean, offensively, at least. Defensively, something to be desired. But again, this is a team that's not very good over the last few years. Has he been on a good team yet? No. So, I mean, you look at the plus minus numbers, are skewed because of the bad team he's on. So he's a minus 92 over his career. Not super nice numbers to see. I mean, he's going to probably be a minus 100 probably by the end of the season, looking at what. So, his career. But, that's not as much as what you say defensively, because it's hard to say when they're on a bad team, and most of the guys are minuses. So, I mean, his Corsi numbers aren't flattering either. I mean, he hasn't been over 50%. I believe he's 50% in his first season. So, I mean, his 47.1 Corsi for this year over his career 48. It's not good. It's not horrible, but it's not really good. I mean, there's guys that are over, like, you look at a guy like Quinn Hughes, who's over 60% in his career. So, guys that have those types of numbers, and the only real advanced stat that I really understand. So, I mean, this is, so he's good. He's okay in that, but over his career, as time goes on, he'll get better. The team will get better. And again, he's one of those right-hand shot defensemen that a lot of teams like too. So
that's the other thing. Is
I don't think you move him yet. So
he could fetch quite the pretty penny though, because of being a puck moving right-handed 24-year-old defenseman, and like Devin said, have plenty of opportunity to still grow. And maybe it is just a change of scenery he needs. But Devin, come back to you.
So one thing about Hronek, and I don't know if this is going to happen in Detroit or not, but I want to see him play with a D partner that is better than him. Since he's joined the team, he's had to be the best guy in his pairing, and I don't know if he's the guy that can do that. I want to see him play with a shutdown, top tier left-handed defenseman and see how he looks in that situation where he's not the guy who has to be the guy. But like I said, I don't know if that's going to happen in Detroit or not.
Well, maybe one of those left-handed D coming over from the SHL next year could be a second pairing.
Fingers crossed.
Yes. And start off that way. So, excellent insight. Like I said, I think he is still young. You both brought up great points. He's still very young. He's still offensive minded. The Wings already moved one right-handed puck-moving defenseman. They moved a puck-moving offensive left-handed defenseman. Like they can't just keep giving away their offensive pieces from the back end, or else we're really going to be in trouble because they'll have no offense from the back end and no defense in the back end either. So they have to keep some players, and I think you're correct right now. Filip Hronek should be kept in Detroit at least for another season, and then maybe he's a deadline move next year if things are not quite going the way they should be. All right, one final topic, and I'm going to make this a little quick fire rapid topic so we can stay on time today. But one of our viewers asked, with Tampa Bay, Toronto, Florida, and Boston all in the Wings division, how far out is Detroit from a legitimate playoff opportunity? And I'll go first here, and I'm going to say legitimate playoff opportunity. We're talking 4 to 5 years. I don't see Tampa, Florida really falling off that much. Boston, I thought this year might be the year they kind of fell off with losing Krejci, losing Rask, and getting some of those guys older and older. Marchand's not going to stay along much longer. Bergeron's not going to be around much longer, but they are still a dangerous team. Toronto, they're hit and miss, but they, as you've seen the last 3 years, they have been a dominant regular season team, and that's really all that matters when it comes to getting to the playoffs. So I see this being a legitimate 4 to 5 years till the next playoff opportunity. Devin, we'll come to you, and then we'll give our guest Matthew the final words on our show.
So I'm sticking to my timeline here, where 2 years is when we can start to realistically look at the playoffs. And that's not saying that that's when they get in, but 2 years is when, all right, this is when we should, strive for it. But the thing is like you said, Kyle, Boston's going to be falling off here eventually because Marchand and Bergeron are going to be gone, and they don't have anybody in-house to replace them, at least right now. But then besides the other 3 teams, you've got teams like Ottawa coming up, and they're right there with the Red Wings. You've got the Buffalo Sabres, and everybody makes fun of them, but look out. They're building a nice pipeline. They're going to be coming up too. And the Montreal Canadiens, who were in the Stanley Cup final just last year, I'm not going to bet on it, but they could turn things around too. So just as the Red Wings are climbing up, they've got teams right there with them in their own division that are going to be climbing up with them. So the Atlantic division is a bloodbath right now, and that is not going to change anytime soon.
Great point. So you're saying 2 years to be sniffing it and probably 4 to 5 to be getting in it?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay. Matthew, come to you. Last words of the show till I do my final ad read. With Tampa, Toronto, Florida, and Boston in the Wings division, how far out is Detroit from a legitimate playoff opportunity?
Yeah, I'm going to say the same. I think 5 years is a good window. 2-3 years, like Devin said, is probably when they're going to start knocking on the door. I mean, this year they kind of were for a bit, and maybe it was just because the other teams are trying to figure things out. But I don't think they're that far away, especially with the young guys coming up and Raymond and Seider. And depending on what Yzerman does in the offseason, which you saw what he did with the Tampa Bay Lightning, kind of surrounding his talent with complementary pieces. You never know. Guys like Edvinsson coming, Berggren, other guys coming up as well. You don't know how fast they're going to get into the lineup and how fast they're going to hit. So if they do, you never know. And Yzerman has shown in the past that he's been able to complement these young guys with veteran pieces, with complementary pieces, and turn them into a contending team. Not that Tampa wasn't before. I mean, they were kind of, on the cusp of being that already, but he kind of pushed them over the top. So you don't know what'll happen with the Red Wings the next couple of years. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were kind of knocking on that, being in the playoffs in 2 years. So, but like you guys said, these other teams are improving around them. They maybe stepping back, but you got the young teams as well, like Buffalo, like Ottawa, that are going to have young guys coming into their lineup as well. And depending on what their general manager does, they're going to be up there too. So it's going to be fun to watch of how this division shapes up. But the Red Wings, I think, are in a good position at this point.
I completely agree. And I think you're absolutely right. And as much as we do make fun of the Buffalo Sabres, they do have a really good young core coming up. And as long as they are invested in that group, you never know what could happen. And then, Ottawa is very sneaky good, in my opinion. Again, it's going to come down to what they can really build around that core. And I think they really need to figure out their goaltending situation. They thought it was going to be Matt Murray. It doesn't seem to quite be that. But you never know. He's still young too. And he's already proven that he can be a deep run type guy. So he could easily bounce back and really be that guy that leads them. So I apologize, Matt. I told you to get the last words, but then I jumped in anyway. So all right. Well, with that, in case we haven't convinced you yet, sign up for the Morning Skate, our daily newsletter delivered to your inbox Monday to Friday. It is jam-packed with the best hockey stuff on the planet. If you enjoy my humor on this show, just think what you get when I have writers writing for me. It's just, it is a lot of fun. I absolutely love putting it together every night. I hope you enjoy getting your hockey news through us every morning, but it's a free newsletter to your inbox Monday through Friday. Sign up at morningskate.io. That's morningskate.io. And with that, we here at the Hockey Writers Grind Line say thank you again for joining us this week. And we look forward to a wonderful April with all of you. And from that, we will see you next week.